Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with a little bit more Ask Reddit. Today's question is gonna be, people who have snapped on a bully at school, what is your story? And I have a feeling you're gonna love this one. In hindsight, a lot of people do get punched, so it's not necessarily something you guys might love, but hey, it falls in line with pro-revenge and petty revenge pretty well, so you guys will get a kick out of it at least, right? But whatever, enough on all of that. Make sure to do me a favor, leave a like on the video right now. You get 1,629.7 Bumfris points to redeem at your leisure. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, then sit back, relax, and enjoy what we'll call some pro-revenge. In 4th grade, this kid named Nick used to punch me every day at recess. I went home one day crying about it, and my dad told me just to punch him back. So the next day, when Nick came around to punch me, I whipped around and just beat the snot out of him. Like when I say that, I mean I absolutely wailed on him. One of the teachers noticed and took us to the principal's office, and we both got off with a warning. After that, Nick never punched me again. But what he would do is make sure that I could get to the front of the line at the drinking fountain, and he picked me first for any sports game that he was team captain for. I mean, I gotta admit, I love the way that this story flipped around in the end, and I know it's probably only because this kid doesn't want any more trouble, but you know, at least they found some kind of common ground and they may be on the way to a friendship, I don't know, but it's definitely better than them just fighting with each other all the time, right? There was this group of boys who thought that it was hilarious to keep our football and stop us from getting it back after it rolled towards them on the school field. They kept passing it between themselves and picking it up and trying to keep it away from us. After trying for about a minute to get the ball back from them after running after it, one of them picked the ball up and kept moving it away, trying to keep it out of my reach. I took a few steps back, no longer interested in trying not to hurt them, and did a goal kick on the ball. I kicked his hand in the process, and the ball smacked him in the face and gave him a bloody nose. He just turned around and walked away with his tail between his legs. This is only my opinion, so 100% correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when it comes to this sort of thing and you're chasing after a ball that they're refusing to give to you and whatever else when it comes to these types of bullies, is that if you just didn't try to get the ball back, they would have absolutely no ammo over you to, you know, have an incentive to keep doing it. But I mean, what do I know? I can't say I went around stealing people's balls for my entire childhood, so I guess it'll always be a mystery. This one wasn't at school, but I was 12 and a kid on my block constantly challenged me to fight him because he knew that I didn't want to. So it was a great way for this chubby, incompetent brat to show off. One day, outside the convenience store, to his surprise, I accepted. He came towards me and I basically just lifted up my leg and kicked him in the stomach. Honestly, he just bounced off my foot. In shock, he came at me again. This repeated about 3 times as the expression of disbelief on his face became more pathetically pronounced. He finally gives up and ran past my house, telling my mother, who happened to be outside, that I beat him up. But the thing was, she already knew about his behavior towards me, so as soon as I explained what happened, it was all good. He wasn't actually physically hurt, just emotionally. We both learned a good lesson that day, and he actually grew up to be a decent guy from what I could tell. You know, I don't think there's much that needs to be said about this one. The kid kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and eventually, it seems like he got what he wanted, so what can you say? I didn't snap at a bully per se, but I did snap at a teacher who didn't do anything no matter how many times I told her I was being bullied. All of my bullies, their parents were on the parent council. They got funded for field trips and things like that, so the kids were basically untouchable. I yelled at the teacher telling her what they have done to me, things like taking my school supplies, excluding me from activities, calling me names and throwing things at me, along with a lot of other things. I told him how I was sick and tired of being blamed that it was my fault that I had no friends when every single bully told people to avoid me. They invented this thing called Katie touch, like the cheese touch, but you get the Katie touch if you talk to me. And I finished it all by telling her that she was stupid and was too worried about losing school funding that she didn't care what happened to her students. No one backed me up and nothing changed. I got a 3-day in-school suspension and the bullying got worse. Kids would take my lunch and shoes, so I'd get in trouble for not wearing my indoor shoes, and I passed out one time from hunger and dehydration from not eating. I hated that school, and I'm so glad that I went to a junior high that didn't have anybody else there from my old elementary. This kind of thing, as sad and really sad as it is, happens all the damn time, and it's not always just because of funding. Sometimes the teachers can't be bothered, and sometimes they're just not equipped to deal with this kind of thing. It really shouldn't be like that, but unfortunately it is. The amount of kids that I saw got bullied with teachers doing absolutely nothing about it, and looking from the outside at just how bad that was, I really can't imagine how bad it was for those kids who were getting bullied every day and never ever having anything done about it. This was in, I think, 7th grade. I threw a shoe at him in a change room as he was picking on some random kid, and I just had enough of his crap and I completely missed him, and I hit the guy that he was picking on right in the face. Everyone froze for a second and then burst out into laughter, and the guy who was being picked on started crying. I felt really bad because I meant to hit the bully because, let's be honest, shoes are hard to throw accurately, okay? I tried to tell him that it was for the bully, and I guess I calmed him down a little bit after also apologizing profusely. After the incident, the mood in the room was lightened and everybody started being more chill with each other, so I guess it was a success, lol. As the great man DJ Khaled once said, you gotta suffer for success sometimes, and unfortunately, this kid was a bit of a casualty in, the success of making the change room a little bit better. No, but for real, imagine trying to stop someone from being bullied and indirectly becoming a bully yourself by mistake. Like, I don't know, I just feel like that would suck, but hey, it worked out in the end, right? So I grew up moving around a lot with my mum and dad. Unfortunately, that meant being the new kid quite a bit. I was a pretty awkward kid, but I generally managed to make friends, except for one particular school. I was there for 3 years, which is the longest run at one elementary school I ever had. Anyway, the popular girls would bully me constantly. I was about 50 pounds soaking wet when I was younger, and I was on average skinnier than most. They would call me anorexic and ask why my parents starved me, etc. Which obviously they didn't, by the way. My parents were and are still amazing. But one day, the popular girl asked me to give her a push on the gliders, the one where you'd hang onto a T-bar and push off from one but platform to the next, and well, I pushed her really hard. So what happened? She fell off and broke her arm. I transferred schools the very next week. This one's kind of like a little dine and dash where you eat food and then just leave without paying, but instead it's break somebody's arm and then just leave the school and never see them again. I mean, what could go wrong? So I was in 5th grade and this dude who always picked on me was kicking my seat in an assembly, and I was having a terrible week and this was just my last straw. I turned around, punched him in the face, but I wasn't satisfied with the first punch because it felt weak, so I figured I'm already going to be in trouble, so I went back for a second, better punch that felt well worth getting in trouble over. Also, this was a DARE assembly, which was about saying no to drugs and violence, so I basically learned nothing. Bully getting what they deserve is a nice little start to the episode. And just FYI everyone, I have a feeling this is going to be a bit of a theme throughout this episode. I haven't read too many of the stories yet, but I have a pretty strong feeling that there's going to be a lot of bullies getting punched. Obviously not that I think that's a good thing, but hey, you guys love a good revenge story, so let's hear them dished out. I was 7 and I was a nice kid with average grades, and there was this one bully that was taller than me. He used to be any typical bully like, trip you on your lunch and push your head for no apparent reason. I was getting annoyed that I felt the red heat go all over my body. I looked at him and told him to stop. I looked at him and he pushes me to the ground. I stopped and kicked his table and punched his nose with all my force. His nose started to bleed and I was sent to the office. My mum had this thing where if they started it, then she'll pretend that she's mad at me at school and come home and say congrats. I guess that's the thing about some of these. There's a pretty big difference between somebody just snapping and deciding to hit their bully because they're sick of being verbally abused or whatever, and I know that that's still horrible, I'm not saying that by any means. But there's a difference between somebody doing that and somebody literally getting pushed or punched and then in self-defense doing the exact same thing in return, and as a result, they no longer get bullied. I guess the outcome is the same, but I guess it's up to different people the way they want to interpret each one. In middle school, we were hanging around before class started, and this guy, who used to be my friend, came up behind me and put a condom in my mouth. I turned around, pushed him up against the wall, and punched him in the face. The whole school heard about it, and they were all backing me up for the rest of the day. I didn't even get in trouble. Because I'm getting some upvotes, I'll expand a little bit. He was super embarrassed and tried to negotiate with me, saying, "You have to let me punch you back to make up for it, or to save his honor, or some rubbish like that." All the other students would not stop teasing him about it. I think that when the teachers heard about it, they thought it was funny, and I had a good rep with them, so they just let it slide. Now call me absolutely crazy, but I think this one may have been taken just a little bit too far. And I think sometimes it's justified, like I said, when it's in self-defense or whatever else, but to me, it seemed like the person was probably just joking and maybe no harm meant by it, but I don't know. I can't say for sure, so maybe it was justified, who knows, but it just doesn't seem like that from my perspective. I was in 9th grade and I had a French teacher who was a complete pushover. My friend and I were getting paper tossed at the back of our heads by 3 popular guys and girls. I told the teacher what was happening, he turns to them, they stop, and he goes on his business. I go back to my seat, infuriated with the zero help that I'm getting from the teacher, and to nobody's surprise, the paper begins to fly once again. So I stand up, knocking my chair back, turn to the teacher, tell him loudly that I'm going to the principal. Then, after storming out the door, I pause at it, turn to the popular squad and tell them in front of the whole class who is staring at me, "You are not getting away with this." Needless to say, they stopped after that, even though I'm pretty sure the principal did nothing. Goes to show how tough bullies really are. All they want is someone who doesn't fight or speak back. I think the most infuriating thing about this is when kids get bullied in school, their teachers and sometimes even their parents will just say to them, ignore the bullies and they'll stop. Quite frankly, that's not how it works. Sometimes you need to stand up for yourself and show them that you're not going to take their rubbish anymore. Other times, like I said, you just give them no ammunition and they'll get bored and realize that they're wasting their time in bullying you. But either way, you just have to do something about it. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap things up for today's episode of Askreddit. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already seen it, don't forget to check out my last video. It was entitled Parents, and the next entitled Parents / whatever else video you're going to see is going to be episode 100 and it will be an absolute banger. Can't believe I just said that, but it is going to be a really good video and I know you guys will love it. So make sure to keep an eye out, turn on notifications if you haven't already, and it's going to be something that you guys will love. But yeah, that is pretty much it for today's video. I don't want to ramble on too much. I will let you guys know, for those of you who don't already know, I have a Twitter and an Instagram if you want to follow me on those. They are both at Bumfris. I'll be posting more and more as time goes on, so if you do want to interact with me a little bit differently, then feel free to do so. Head over there, send me a message, do whatever you got to do, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Anyway, just want to say again, I love each and every single one of you. You are what basically gets me up in the morning, so thank you so much for tuning in every day. I really do appreciate you all. Otherwise, I really do hope you enjoyed the video yet again, and I hope you're all having a fantastic day. The next video you see will most likely be episode 100, so I'll see you guys there. Bye.